People suck at not arguing. Have you ever noticed that? And let me be clear here, because that's a kind of weird statement. Actually, let me be slightly more clear, and then let me be a lot more clear afterwards. When I say people suck at not arguing, I don't mean people suck at ceasing to argue, and I don't mean people don't suck at arguing or something like that. I don't mean, if you're an abstract thinker, you might think I'm talking about people suck at arguing about knots, but that's no, you're being silly. Don't be silly. People suck at not arguing. Not arguing is a very specific thing, at least in my brain. It's a term that I use to describe something that people do, and they suck at it. And they suck at it because they shouldn't be doing it, but they do it. It's awful. Not arguing. Not arguing is when two people think that they're arguing, but they're not. Happens all the time online. The majority, I'm going to go so far as to say, and this may be an exaggeration, but I'm going to go so far as to say that literally, definitely, precisely, none of those things, most arguments on the internet are actually not arguments. It's true. It's true. I'm going to explain it to you after I drink some of this, and then you're going to start, well, you're going to think it's a bit silly. You're going to think I'm being daft. You're not going to agree with me. And then sometime in next week, maybe next month, possibly next week, probably next month, you're going to notice. You're going to notice that this is happening. I mean, obviously it varies depending on how much time you spend online in comment sections. If you come on the internet just to watch this video and then you stay off the internet until you find out I've done the video, which, yeah, no one does that. But if you did, obviously you're not going to see this happen very often. But if you spend time online interacting with other human beings and seeing how they interact with each other, you're going to see a lot of not arguments. Let me give you an example. This one I came across recently. No Man's Sky. Have you heard of No Man's Sky? Let me tell you about No Man's Sky. No Man's Sky is a game. It's a video game. Came out for the PlayStation and the PC, and they basically it's not the game that they said they were making. It's got elements of it, but it's really cut down. A lot of the features that are in it aren't in it, and a lot of people are really disappointed. But at the same time, a lot of people, they've finished the game, they've released it, a lot of people have bought it, and they don't really care about, what they said before. What matters is whether the product they got is good and they enjoy it and it's great and they're loving it, right? Those, two separate things. Whether you enjoy the game is a separate thing from whether you're angry that you were lied to about the game. I mean, it can be the same thing. It can be that you don't like the game because you were lied to. And I'll tell you this, it's quite possible to not like the game, but not for those reasons, just because you don't like the game, that's fine. But people don't get that, and what happens is people wind up having a not argument. And there were two guys on Twitter, and one of them, he liked this game, this was a good game, and people who don't like the game, well, they're just idiots. It's not a game for idiots playing Call of Duty, it's a game for smart people who get it and can appreciate the world it's doing. And then you've got the second guy, and this guy, well, they lied about the game, they missold, they misrepresented. It's not the game people wanted. Those are bad things to do. It's fraudulent. It's in fact quite possibly illegal, and you don't want to be supporting a developer that does that for people who were willing to splash out. And as I've explained, those aren't two opposing viewpoints, but they both thought they were. They're arguing, they're insulting each other. This guy, well, you're not smart enough. You just need to. And this guy's like, but they said they didn't. They said this thing and then they didn't do. And neither of them. They're not divergent points. This guy is not saying that it was right that they lied about the game, and this guy's not saying that the game is awful and anyone who likes it is wrong. They're not arguing. They're barely having a discussion. What they're doing is having two separate discussions at each other while insulting each other, because they both don't realise that the other one isn't talking about the same thing, or perhaps they do realise but don't care, which is stupider. Happens all the time. It really does. You go to any part of the internet, especially Reddit, let's be honest, especially Reddit, and you'll find this a lot. You'll find people where one person is talking about how this thing is awful and the other person is talking about how that thing is great, and although they're both circling around the same topic, they're not actually discussing the same thing. Not really, not specifically. But they both think they are. They're both getting irate at the other one for not agreeing with them, when they haven't realised that the other person isn't actually disagreeing with them either. They're just not talking about the same things. People suck at this. I mean, I suppose from another point of view, you know, I did say people suck at not arguing, and people are actually really great at not arguing. They do it all the time. They just don't realise they're doing it. I suppose if people were to embrace a not argument, which is essentially two separate discussions about the same thing, but with lack of awareness. But then again, how can you, with lack of awareness, be aware of what you're doing? So no, people suck at not arguing by nature. It's impossible to not be awful at it, except kind of like it's a bit like war games. The only way to play is not to win. I got that backwards, didn't I? Anyway, that's just my rant about not arguing. Try not to do that online. If you think someone's disagreeing with you, have a quick chat. Make sure that they're actually talking about the same thing you are. That's all from me. Thank you. Goodbye.